The three Enneagram instincts are the self-preservation instinct, the social instinct, and the sexual instinct. These instincts lay on top of our personality, so it's really important to know your primary instinct because everything about your Enneagram type is going to be filtered through your primary instincts. So let's start out by describing how fives look when they operate primarily out of the self-preservation instinct. Fives that operate primarily out of the self-preservation instinct are natural minimalists. They feel safe and secure by simply eradicating as many needs as possible. This can be a great trait in that it allows them to be very intentional about what they consume, but it often leaves them with nothing left over to share with others, specifically in regards to their own emotional and intellectual energy. The minute self-preservation fives leave their home, their already limited gas tank begins to drain. Social interactions, especially with new people, are viewed with animosity because they drain the energy that the type 5 could be using to solve some problem or learn some skill. So they often resent having to interact with people unless it's in the context of their work life. This also makes self-preservation fives the biggest loners of the Enneagram. They're like rechargeable batteries that prefer to just stay plugged into the wall at home rather than actually be put to use. So if you pressure a self-pres 5 to get outside of themselves, then get ready for their complete internal shutdown. Self-pres 5s can become so isolated that their mind begins to spiral, and they often fall into conspiracy theories, especially if they have a 6 wing, and their dark virtual communities become their only contact with the outside world. I say that to remind self-preservation 5s that it's imperative to find healthy relationships where they can come alive and feel safe sharing their thoughts and trust or respect others enough to have their intellectual status challenged in a healthy way that fosters humility and social interconnection. All right, that's the self-preservation instinct. Time to move on to fives with a social instinct. Social fives are the epitome of the specialist. They've learned to subvert their tendency to isolate by finding a job or role in society that lets them be the keeper of some secret or specialized knowledge. The Enneagram Institute says social fives like to think of themselves as masters of wisdom. And I know a few social fives that fit this description to a T, one of whom runs an executive life coaching business in which he holds the keys to your success. Because social fives have more tangible interactions with their environment, they become more acutely aware of the ways in which they lack the knowledge or skills that many other people have. Typically, sports are a big source of shame for social fives because it's one major area of life that they couldn't get better at by thinking about it. This keeps fives in their element, and they like to stay in their sweet spot, so they rarely seek out social interactions that would expose their inexperience or awkwardness. Social fives often slip into a general dissatisfaction with the basic human experience, and so they constantly critique society, which can make them look like type 1 reformers. If you've seen Westworld, I feel like Anthony Hopkins' character is a great example of the social five mixing his dissatisfaction with humanity and his genius level of innovation. Social fives really need to spend some time finding an intellectual equal, usually a mentor or a counselor of some kind, that can help them foster a sense of empathy and patience for the human condition. But that's enough about the social instinct. Let's talk about the last one, which is the sexual instinct. Sexual fives are a bit of a paradox because the sexual instinct drives them to subvert their primary operating system. Fives in general are detached and aloof, but the sexual instinct craves intimacy, intensity, and deep relational connection. Sexual fives often create a confusing push-pull relationship with their loved ones because one moment they'll be sharing deep secrets and going on and on about their experiences or ideas, and then boom, they disappear for weeks at a time and they won't pick up your call. Sexual fives are super skittish and they easily feel misunderstood. Sexual fives look at sex as the one place they can be free from logic and the constant chatter of their mind. They love the idea of creating a private world with the perfect mate, but they typically don't trust people enough to get to that deep level of intimacy. And when sexual fives become really unhealthy, the sexual world just becomes another place to explore dark fetishes and disturbing fantasies. I say that because all fives, no matter what their primary instinct, are naturally drawn to dark or taboo subjects in society. They like to operate outside the normal mainstream lines of practical behaviors. This is why sexual fives need to be very careful about what they watch because their eyes open the doors to their imagination and then their imagination can lead them to some really dark habits. I feel like I may have just enticed some fives to go searching for dark shit because it's like reverse psychology when you tell someone not to look at something, but I mean, in all seriousness, like go towards the light, fives. All right, that's how each of the three instincts has a unique influence on the type 5 personality. Now let's talk about where type 5s fall in each of the three Enneagram triads, starting with the triad centers.